My name is Ananth Iyer, and I'm here to talk to you about a book that I co-authored called Toyota Supply Chain Management. This is work done with two colleagues, Professor Sridhar Seshadri at the University of Texas at Austin, and Mr. Roy Vasher, a longtime executive at the Toyota Motor Corporation. What is Toyota supply chain management? Most of us, when you hear Toyota, and if you're in the academic world or you're a management student, think of the word zero inventory. They are famous for having coined the idea of operating systems with low inventory. But we're looking beyond the manufacturing plant. We're looking at their global network of capabilities, which includes their warehousing, their dealers, their products, maintenance, etc. And part of our goal was to ask the question, how does Toyota manage its global supply chain? Now, when you think of the word Toyota, you really should be thinking not just about the Camry, but also the Lexus, also the Scion, which is a car that's targeted at younger people, and also the fact that Toyota sells its products across the world, in the United States, in Europe, in Japan, and all other parts of the world. You now realize that each of these sales areas are different and the products are different. And yet it's one company orchestrating the global supply chain to deliver performance. And that's the essence of what we were interested in. So what did we find? If I wanted to get you to understand the essence of what Toyota does, it's best described by an acronym that we coined. And the acronym was V4L. And let me explain what that means. V4 refers to the 4 V's that are key to manage within the supply chain. And the 4 V's are the velocity of product flow across the system, or the rate at which product is manufactured and sold. The variability, which is all the fluctuations in the sales at a very detailed level across the system. The visibility of product as it moves through the system, all the way from the supplier knowing what's being sold to the dealer having a good idea of what's coming down the pike. And finally, the variety, which is a key decision from a management perspective, saying what is the variety of product that we sell, what do we sell at which location, and how do we understand the interaction of this variety with the costs throughout the system. Now, variety is something I want to focus on. Variety is key because that's what gets the customer to the door. Customers want to see new cars, different cars, things that fit the moment, colors that make sense. And yet all of that is expensive, so it has to be orchestrated carefully so that the customer gets what they want, but it does not drive up costs in the system. Now, what did we find? We found that Toyota carefully thinks through these 4 parameters, and planning a Toyota is at the level of detail. So planning at the Toyota plant is at the level of the individual car. Now you might ask, why would you plan at the level of the individual car? Well, remember, the car is being sold to an individual who goes to a particular dealership to buy a particular car. So it's really important from a planning perspective to say, how do we satisfy the demand of that individual? And one of the things that we learned is focusing on detail all through enables the company to really think about customer satisfaction and think about the cost associated with satisfying the customer. And that to me is the central message, that there's tremendous benefit to looking at the problem at the level of detail and thinking through how everybody gets affected when changes are made, so that the system actually operates at a fairly steady pace to give customers the product they want. A couple of anecdotes which sort of make the point. I had the opportunity to visit the Toyota plant in Georgetown, Kentucky with Roy Vasher, and this was fabulous because Roy had worked in this facility and he pointed out to me things to see. What's amazing at that plant is power is given to the level of the individual employee who can stop the process. However, the system proceeds in a fairly stable fashion. Things stop, they get fixed, they move on. It's not a chaotic environment. It's a very stable environment where things get done. What that illustrated is the benefit of having a process, having a process to fix things, having a process to design things. And that is something which is a great takeaway for me, because it says that not only at the plant, and when we then move to talking to dealers about how they make changes, when we talk to suppliers, when we talk to various employees, and some of that raw footage is there in the book, we understood that process was key in this company. So much so, there's an anecdote that we quote here that evaluation of performance at Toyota has a 50% weight on the process followed to get the result, and a 50% weight on the result itself. In other words, the goal isn't to be a cowboy who got the result, but the goal is to have a result that's replicable in the system. And that, to me, is the essence of a company that drives performance, gets results, but at the same time understands that there has to be a process of learning. You recall when I started off, I used the word V for L, and the L is for learning. And that learning process says that a manufacturing company, if it organizes itself right, offers an opportunity for every employee to contribute to its learning. A book that came out several years ago dealing with Toyota had the title 40 Years, 20 Million Ideas. Okay? And the 20 million ideas were suggestions made by Toyota employees worldwide to improve the company. One of the things that's fabulous, and which I hope we can replicate here at Krannert, is that when every employee working in the firm every week is suggesting ways to improve, two things happen. A, the employees care about finding things to improve. And B, there's a tremendous amount of buy-in and learning that happens on a continual basis. This has a concrete benefit. This has cost reductions, but more importantly, it has quality improvements, and therefore a focus on customer satisfaction. One of the things that we learned from several people that we talked to is the fact that the managers at Toyota say there's only one thing to maximize, and that is customer satisfaction. Everything else is a constraint. And that, to me, is a great way to frame the essence of Toyota's supply chain management. Part of the benefit for us, and a great learning opportunity for us, is that when we wrote the book, we originally started off thinking our goal was really to satisfy people interested in management in the United States and perhaps maybe in Europe. To our surprise, one of the things we found was that this book started getting translated into various languages. There was a Korean edition, a Spanish and a Portuguese edition, and then a Chinese edition. And what's particularly interesting is when it came to the Japanese edition of the book. Some of you will recall that about a year and a half ago, there was a lot of discussion of Toyota's sudden unintended acceleration problem in the United States. It's about the time that we got a request to have a Japanese edition of the book, but they put in one condition, that we write a chapter on the sudden unintended acceleration crisis. Now, we're academics, so we're trained to look at data. So we went in and we collected all the data and all the government reports on that topic. But we also went back to the people we had spoken to earlier and asked them if they had anything to add. Now, here's the interesting part. One of the things they mentioned is we're confident that our processes will work. So we intend to continue to follow our processes, continue to find a way to identifying the root cause and fixing it. Those of you who followed the outcome of the sudden and unintended acceleration, I'll let you be the judge of where that took them. But what ended up happening from Toyota's perspective is what we wrote the chapter on. And the chapter we focused on, extending the supply chain to include the consumer. So what do I mean by that? And it actually gave us an interesting idea for industrial firms. The customer who buys a car with a particular VIN number. And so you might think that with today's information technology, there surely should be a way for them to register that particular product with the company and share with them their experiences. So if they have a problem, then it goes into that system, and that information can go directly back to the engineer. Well, sure enough, a few months later, Toyota did announce something of that sort, a mechanism whereby customers could connect directly with a company, but it provided an interesting example of extending the supply chain right the way down, all the way down to the consumer of the product, the user of the product, and to basically realize that they provide an advanced read of design changes, of issues with product use, of quality improvements, etc., that can benefit the overall supply chain. Now, why should one study these things, and why am I, as a professor, interested in it? I'm a researcher who studies global supply chain management. Toyota is a company that's known as an excellent manufacturer. My benefit with writing this book and studying Toyota is that it provides insights into drivers that we academics should worry about when we model. One of the areas that's of great interest in the supply chain management literature is the link between variety and supply chain costs. Variety is necessary to attract the customer, variety creates costs. So the smart thing to do is to choose the right level of variety, the kind of variety that satisfies the consumer yet delivers performance. There are a number of little details that play a role here, and ways to connect what you learn from Toyota to other companies. It's interesting that a company like Apple is very careful about the variety of components used in all of its products. I'm sure you'll agree with me when you think about Apple as a very high quality operation. Great products that satisfy the customer and keep the customer for a while. So what's the final message I'd like to get you to think about? Supply chain management, for me personally, is something I study and research. Books and specific discussions regarding companies allows us to dive in and understand processes at the level of this company that are global. Krannert has a global appeal. The material that we produce, the information and research we produce, does have a global audience, as we discovered when we wrote this book. At this point, we have 7 different languages that we have editions coming out. And part of our goal, at some point, I hope, that we can actually engage with our readers in all these different languages through the right translation mechanism. It's at that point that we'll truly leverage the global learning opportunity. That's the way that Krannert engages in research. And I hope this has been a valuable piece of information for you. Thank you.